Hello, family members. I hope you're having a nice day. I can tell you, Casey certainly is. He's snoring quite contentedly here, and I hope that's not too distracting for you. But I'd like to talk a little bit about something that I'm seeing in the media noise about Trump's New York criminal trial here that I think we need to talk about a little bit more. And or a narrative that we need to maybe counter, and that narrative is that somehow Michael Cohen is going to be the star witness of this trial, or even Stephanie Clifford, aka Stormy Daniels, is going to be the star witness of this trial. And no. The thing is, there are going to be people who are brought forth as witnesses at this trial that are going to be far less high profile, far less controversial, and far more credible than probably most of the names that you've heard in media coverage about this. I've heard bits and pieces about some of the people that I'm going to discuss in specific before. But in order to really, get a good comprehensive list here, you'll see what I had to do. I had to find something that was not just star witnesses, but quote unquote bit players. And I have a distinct feeling that some of the people that have been dismissed as bit players are going to end up being far more memorable once we are through this trial. So let's go ahead and start with somebody who I think is a very interesting potential witness, and that is Miss Rhonda Graff. As you see here, Graff was Trump's executive assistant for a very long time, both before he was president, not during the time he was president technically, or at least officially, but she has continued to be involved after he left office. Let's see here. Where's she? Yeah. She has been nicknamed Trump's right hand. And, if you wanted to get to her, get to Trump, you had to go through her. So, Rhonda Graff, this lady here, she's going to be someone who we may very well have some pretty interesting testimony come from her. Now, the interesting thing about her, as far as like the time frame for this specific set of events, is she would have been his executive assistant before he became president, and then when he became president, she actually communicated through someone we're going to talk about here in a little bit, Miss Madeline Westerhout, and she also did, from what I've seen, has had to continue to quote unquote handle his arrangements outside of official arrangements. So she's going to be someone we want to keep an eye out for. The next person, I think, is a little bit more high profile, but I haven't heard too many people talking about him, but that's Mr. Dan Scavino here. Dan Scavino has been involved with Trump since, right in the time frame that would be relevant here, and has been, credited as potentially being the one that would provide his phone for Trump to use, because Trump very famously tries to avoid having, leaving much of a paper trail or having phones or his own devices. So he'd use Dan Scavino's phone instead, right? And the thing that I find very interesting about that is he was involved in the campaign since, very early on. He was the social media guy. And while he was in the White House, he was the social media guy as well. Well, here we have USA Today talking about how Scavino would have access to Trump tweets, or maybe vice versa, you know. So that's another thing. You know, this is somebody who potentially could provide a lot of corroborating evidence, or be able to back up things that other witnesses say that might have credibility issues. The next guy, whoops, my bad, um, is law enforcement security consultant guy who has worked for Trump for decades. And the thing I found very interesting about him when I was looking into him was it looked like the reason that he left the Trump White House was not because of anything like, um, bad blood. It's just that he wanted more money. So he's someone who would have, reasonably good credibility issues because, or relatively good credibility because he has no reason, no grudge against Trump. So let's go ahead and get to the last person I want to speak with, who I think is someone who's very interesting to the case, but also when I was going through this rabbit hole before, uh, this story goes somewhere kind of funny. So anyway, Madeline Westerhout here, and I don't know that I'm pronouncing her name correctly, so I do apologize if I'm pronouncing it wrong, was, the gateway to Trump during the first years of his presidency. And so, of course, that's very relevant to the time frame of the events that will be, discussed during trial. So we've got former director of Oval Office operations here. And the thing that I thought was very interesting about her was how she ended up leaving the White House. Apparently, she maybe got kind of drunk or something at a dinner party with reporters and bragged about how Trump thought she was prettier than Tiffany and liked to have his picture taken with her more than Tiffany because she was prettier. Uh, hmm. Maybe not a good look there. But again, the thing I found very interesting when I was looking into her was that, after all that happened, Trump came out and said, "Oh yeah, she's apologized. We're cool." And she, in her book, uh, talks about how he was kind and generous and a great leader and blah blah blah. So again, not somebody who would have any sort of grudge against him. Not someone who the defense would be able to go, well, you can't believe her. She doesn't like, she's a never Trumper or whatever. No, she's all in. So the other thing I find interesting about this constellation of potential witnesses is that there's really no bad way for the prosecution to use them. Because if assuming that they don't lie convincingly, which, from what I've read on each of these individuals, they may be motivated to try to help their old boss. But like, for example, Dan Scavino has already flirted with getting prosecuted for contempt of Congress after resisting previous attempts to get him to testify. And where was it that I saw that? Because yeah, he was then confirmed. Then end up being compelled to comply with Jack Smith's investigation. So it may very well be that he is not very motivated to run afoul of the law again here. And that's what I want from all of these witnesses, if they are called, is for them to just be as honest as possible. Now, it may be that they are evasive or claim to not remember things that they probably remember, or, refuse to answer things. But I don't think it hurts the prosecutors if they refuse to engage. The only really good thing that they could do for the defense is to rebut, and if the rebuttal is untrue, then I think that, it'll be contradicted by somebody else in this constellation of witnesses, assuming that they are truthful, and they're either provide corroborating information or are evasive. Either one of those scenarios helps the prosecution, and being evasive doesn't help the defense. So I think with this, what we're going to see is, instead of having star witness Michael Cohen, we're going to have a whole constellation of star witnesses. And boy, it's going to be a heck of a thing to watch, but I do believe that we're going to learn some interesting things through this, and I just hope it's a fair trial. That's all I want to see. I just want to see a fair trial. I want to know that the issues that have been raised in this criminal complaint are adequately addressed. And if they can be proven beyond a reasonable doubt, then he should be convicted. And if they can't be proven beyond a reasonable doubt, he should be acquitted. That's how I feel about it. And it seems like there's a lot of evidence, but, until it actually is laid out in court, how could you say? So, in the days and weeks that follow, I hope you're not following it too closely. I don't think it's very healthy to follow it too closely. But when the days come that one of these or some of these witnesses are called to testify, maybe pay a little closer attention on that day, is all I'm saying. Well, I do hope you have just the most fabulous and wonderful day that you could possibly have. And I'm going to go cuddle with some of these babies. Bye.